Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish podcast. Today, we've got a guest who has been a member of Church of the Nativity for a long time, turned minister, turned Rebuilt staff member. We've got Colleen Droney in the studio, and she's talking all about her passion for pouring into priests and parish leaders, helping them in the parish renewal process, specifically with their messages and homilies. So tune in to find out how your parish can get all of the support they need when it comes to providing great content, whether it's your homilies or your message series, your small groups, or children's liturgy of the word. We'll see you inside the episode. Well, hey, Colleen, thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
This is your first time on the podcast, so I'm excited for people to get to know you because if they haven't been around for too long, they might not know you. So could you start by just sharing a bit about your background, how you first got involved at Church of the Nativity and then eventually with Rebuilt?
Sure. So I actually go way back as a parishioner of Nativity. We moved to the area in about 2003. We had a young son. We were church shopping and we ended up at Nativity. They had a nursery, and that really changed everything for us. It was just great to be able to drop him off and go to church and really feel like we got to engage with Mass. So from there, I eventually started serving as a minister in the office ministry. And after a few years of that, when my kids got a little bit older, I was invited to join the staff as a part-time employee. And then eventually full-time, and how, when you're in parish ministry, they just kind of consume your time. So then I was transitioned to the Rebuilt staff at about 2019. We were planning the Rebuilt conference for 2020 right before the pandemic. And I was pulled onto that team to help get that ready. And once the pandemic happened, everything changed for Rebuilt Parish. We were uniquely positioned at that time to serve other parishes with what we had learned, with what was going on in the world, and how we could help them do live streaming, maybe learn how to collect donations online. There was a whole bunch of stuff that we were already doing. So parishes were naturally calling us saying, how do we do this? Can you help us? And so we leaned into that. We were having weekly webinars. We were putting out as much information as we were learning. And it was a game changer for Rebuilt at that moment too, because we didn't know Zoom. We didn't know how to work with Zoom. And all of a sudden, we're reaching parishes in New Zealand and Europe and Canada on our weekly webinars. And we thought, we have a community here that we can lean into and serve. So that's how I started at Rebuilt, at Nativity. And then that's how it grew into my role at Rebuilt.
Colleen, I think you've got the quintessential church worker story. You started as a parishioner and then serving in ministry and then part-time and then full-time. That's just what happens. We always talk about, we hire your next hire is your best volunteer. And that's what we see over and over again.
Yeah, we call it part-time plus and then full-time plus, and now it's your whole life. You go to church, you're working, you're always there. But it's great. I mean, it is a calling for sure, because it is not easy. It's not easy, but it is so rewarding.
Yes. So Colleen, so you got to be a part of all of this really from the ground up as the pandemic hit. And now you get the opportunity to work with other parishes from all over the world. So what drew you into the work of helping other parishes?
So something that I've learned along the way, and something that Father White and Tom talk about in the book Rebuilt, that, our heart breaks for the local pastor, the parish. This ministry, like I said, is really hard. And there's a sense of isolation and loneliness out there with a parish just trying, Sunday is always coming, and they're trying so hard to have an impact, to grow disciples, to do everything that a parish is called to do. And so one of the things that Rebuilt wants to be able to to be a blessing to these parishes, to walk alongside so they don't feel alone. And often Father White, when he's talking to our new coaches that are coming on board in that ministry, he will tell them, the life of a pastor is really lonely. They have to make all these decisions. They're holding down the fort. If you do nothing except for walk beside them and let them know they are not alone, that alone is worth it. So I feel like in this community that we're creating, we have been blessed in this moment of getting parishes from all over the world to talk to each other, feel supported. You'll even see that in some of our workshops where we invite other parishes to come in, share what they're learning. They learn from each other and they feel seen and heard and supported. It's happening. It's such a great movement, and that inspires me. I love when that happens. It feels like we're just facilitating the Holy Spirit and they're really serving each other. They are in this ministry. They're ministering to each other, really.
Yes. I think that's one of my favorite things too, Colleen, is seeing how they interact with each other, how they support each other, how they call each other up and ask each other questions and cheer each other on. It's really just a beautiful, I don't want to call it like a secondary to the ministry, but it feels like that is like, you're right. They are ministering to themselves there. It's just what a blessing to be able to see. Now, Colleen, one of the ways that we help pastors and parish leaders is through our rebuilt content library. So I'm wondering, could you share, first of all, where did this idea come from for this library? How did the materials come about? And then tell us, what is it and what kind of tools and resources does it have? Tell us all the things about the content library, Colleen.
So a little history here on how this content library came to be, because originally once the book was written and the conferences were happening, we had a lot of parishes that were coming to us saying, okay, but how do you do that? And then, then the book, and how do you do that? Then the conference. And one of the outcropping of the conference was, let's get the parishes together in this community, Rebuilt Parish Association, we called it. And we provided them with this library, this archive of materials that were developed at Nativity. Nativity, a long time ago, had started doing message series. They started doing small groups, and we also were doing children's liturgy of the word. And we were creating that content originally. So we had this whole vast content, this whole archive. So one of the thinking was, well, maybe we'll just provide the resources to these parishes and then they can do it themselves. And so they collected all this information. They put it into an account, a subscription service. And for a nominal fee, these parishes could sign on and access all of these resources. So that was the origination of it. And then, that sort of led as the basis of the coaching, because then these parishes said, yeah, thanks for the content, but now help us apply it. Nevertheless, we do feel like these are tested tools. This is a homily series from several years ago that Father White and Tom offered to the parish on a specific topic. And what we've learned is that if we take away that friction, if we take away some of those obstacles in creating this material, it is information that a parish can download, can adapt it to their parish, to their season and what they need. And it's such a great start that they don't have to come up with the content. And then eventually our hope is that parishes will be so inspired that they'll start writing their own series eventually, if and when they get there. But we just want it to be a blessing and take away some of that, the busyness of Sunday's always coming. Yes. Here you go. Start here.
Yeah. As soon as you said take away the business, I kept thinking of what you said earlier. Sunday is always coming. And we know how busy parish life can be. I mean, you never know who's going to show up, who's going to need something, how many funerals you're going to have in a week. I mean, there's so much riding on the shoulders of the pastor and his team that having these ready-made message series available to them can be such a blessing to them.
Exactly. And in the library, it has small group content. So there's videos and a discussion guide. And then it has the children's liturgy of the word lesson plans. And there's some extra resources too that a parish who doesn't know where to start, if they get the content library, they can shop around and see what fits in for their parish. If they only want to try one message or if they want to try a whole series, there is a lot of choice and a lot of resources. And we try to make it as simple as possible for them to engage with these resources, with this material.
I love that you talk about it being simple. Let's talk about what makes our homilies and message series in the library different from where pastors could find other message series, and how can parishes adapt them into their own context?
Yes. Okay. So one of the differentiators with this content is that it is based on the lectionary. So it is organized by liturgical year and by season. So it starts with, Advent, and then it goes through the season for Lent and for Easter. So it's seasonal content organized in that way. It's based on the lectionary. So the gospel readings will align for the most part. There's a little nuance sometimes in the liturgical year based on when Easter is and so forth. But we try our best to make sure it lines up. And there are a lot of options as well. So in liturgical year C, which we're currently in, and in this season, there's 4 different series that a pastor could like a menu of options for them to look at, but it's all aligned with the liturgy right now. So that is a differentiating factor, in that this is for Catholic parishes, really, for anyone who's using our lectionary. That's a differentiator. And then the tools that we have, there's a nice summary document, and it talks about what the scriptures that we're focusing on. It gives a summary of the series, and then it also, for each week, it explains what we want the parishioners to know, to feel, and to do. So even if you're just starting from there as a pastor or a message team, you could download that summary and you could take a shot at what you would like to do. You can look at the transcripts, which we provide. You can look at the videos and how Father White delivered the message, and then you can kind of adapt the transcripts to fit your parish. So we try to make it as easy as possible and as deep in options there for a pastor or a message team to adapt it to their needs and their parish.
I think that's such a great idea. And I love, Colleen, that there's at least 3 different options for them to choose per liturgical season as well. So if I'm looking for something for liturgical year C for Advent, there's at least 3 different ones that I can look at. And I love that, we can say, okay, what's going to fit best? What am I trying to do in my parish? And from there, which one of these aligns more closely? And then, of course, they add their own stories in. So, Colleen, I can't remember what the message series was, but I remember hearing Father Michael talk about it. And in the message, he was talking about going to this barber shop and the barber having these really very loud opinions. And he was, had all of these tattoos going up his arms, and Father Michael was nervous about it. Now, can a parish priest in Florida share that exact same message with that exact same story? No, that's not his story, but he'll share his own story where maybe he had a similar feeling.
Yes, exactly. It's adaptable, and that you can add in, of course, you should. This is the basis. This is the basis of the conversation or of the presentation. But we really, a parish will have to add in their own anecdotes. Although, some of them are universal.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So Colleen, you mentioned that it's got the homilies in there. But you also mentioned that it's got small group materials and some children's liturgy of the word resources. So talk to us about how these connect. How does that work? How do you use them all together?
Yes. I will say that this material was first offered at Nativity, and because of the liturgical year seasons, it's every 3 years there's a turnover. So these were messages, small group materials offered 3 years ago at Nativity, and we are constantly updating based on 3 years ago. So right now, we just put in the library Advent from 2022, which will be in the library and new to our audience for 2025. But the way that these go, small group materials and the message series are aligned in the same topic and the same questions. So at Nativity, we have a message series, and then the small group it goes along for however long. So maybe it's a 5-week series or a 6-week series. The messages and the questions are all the same. We say one church, one message, and that's what we mean. We mean that there's unity in how we're talking about the topic that we're all looking at. And then with the small group, with the Children's Liturgy of the Word, that is similar. It is not always aligned completely, but the lectionary and the Bible stories are the same. So the children are hearing an age-appropriate message based on that gospel and those readings. So that is how it's all aligned. And it can work together, but if you're a DRE and you just want to get the Children's Liturgy of the Word lesson plan and get some ideas for your program, you could go in there. Or if you are interested in just starting a small group program and you're not interested in doing homily message series, that it's a standalone. So you can watch the messages and the conversations, and you can offer a small group program. There's a lot of other options in there.
So this sounds like if they're brand new to it, there's different ways that they can use it, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
If they're brand new, it also helps with planning a little bit further out. When a parish or a parish leader or pastor is looking for the first time and they might be a little overwhelmed, we encourage them to look at a season that they might already have a natural inclination to do a series. For example, Advent. So if you were to use the Advent series, which for us is the 4 weeks of Advent plus Christmas Eve, we tie that all together in one series, that already has a natural rhythm and a natural connection. So a pastor could be looking ahead at that and seeing where they can adapt it to fit their season and try it. It might take a little bit of your business and all the work that you're already doing in Christmas season, preparing for Christmas, might actually give you a little bit of breathing room if you already have this ahead to utilize.
What a great way to give these parish leaders and pastors breathing room, because again, we know how much is on their plates. There's a lot of juggling happening. So, Colleen, what kind of feedback or success stories have you heard from parishes that are actively using the content library?
So we have one pastor that was aware of what we were doing and very engaged in Rebuilt Parish ministry and the resources, but wasn't completely read in on how the content worked. And it's kind of comical because he's a very good friend of ours. And he got a new assignment. And one of the things that he was kind of struggling with in preparing for this, to take over this new parish, was how to approach different things. And I had asked him, I said, so Father, are you using the content library, because he was saying, well, I got to, prepare these messages. And he had so much to do in this takeover. And I said, let me help you. So I showed him where to find the resources. And I suggested to him that he could print out the summary. He could have it week by week, outlined and prepare it. But one of the things that he said is, okay, the Nativity approach to the messages is a little bit longer. Our parish is used to longer messages. And that was an objection that he thought maybe this new parish wouldn't be ready for it. But he said, I know exactly how many words it takes for me to get to a 10-minute homily. So he took the presentation, the transcript as it was, he condensed it down to however many words that was. Maybe it was 10,000 words. I have no idea. But he was able to take the theme, the summary, the transcript, create a 10-minute homily, and he was already prepared when he stepped foot into the parish. He was able to put the message in the bulletin. He had questions ready to go. The parish loved it. So he was able to do the series and have them prepared 4 months before he ever stepped foot into that parish. And it just worked so lovely that it was already there, ready for him to go. It made his life so easy, and the parish loved it. They really responded well to it.
I love that, Colleen, and for multiple reasons. One, that this priest didn't have to go in completely overwhelmed, because a new assignment is overwhelming in general. But because he already could have 4 months of content completely planned, ready to go, what he was putting in the bulletin, the discussion questions he was going to give to the parishioners, what a time saver But then I also love how the parish responded. I mean, I remember as this first started getting to hear about it, and he was having massive success already, which, I mean, that's huge. You and I were talking offline how some parishes will come in and they will, when they're trying to rebuild, they'll start with some other things. But will you share what Maria had shared with you?
Yes, in a recent conversation Maria was having with a group of parish leaders, someone had asked her, well, what do you think a parish should start? What do they need to do first if they're wanting to change the culture of their parish? And Marie said, most often they will implement a greeter program, maybe start a cafe or a parking ministry. And she said, but what has the most impact is if they start with a message series for a couple of reasons. The preaching from the pulpit has such power. It also leads the change culturally in your parish. So once you get on board with starting message series, you're free to invite people to small groups. You can speak about that from the pulpit. You get everybody aligned with the mission and the vision of your parish. And then you can start implementing what we call the steps, serving, tithing, engaging in small groups, practicing prayer. Once that gets unleashed and you can build it from the pulpit in these ways, everybody falls in line. It's the single most important and impactful thing for a parish to do who's trying to start something new and to be speaking about it to their parishioners. So I thought that was really impactful about how, in her as a lead coach in our parish transformation team, once the pastor and the message team gets on board with that, everything else flows from that. And I thought that was great.
I think that's incredible. I mean, she gets to see what all of our parishes are doing. She's got her finger on the pulse of that. And to hear that is really changing. I mean, this can be a game changer for a parish. And does it take time to put a message series into place? It does. But what an incredible resource this is to save them some of that time too.
Yes, because at the end of the day, we want to be a blessing. These resources are, curated from this vast catalog of what Nativity has done over the years. We kind of know what works, and we just want to be a shortcut. How can we help and serve these parishes? They're working so hard, these parish leaders. Maybe there's something in here that will speak to your parish. Maybe there's a shortcut or something that you can do and implement that will help lead your parish to this renewal. We want to be a blessing. We're not looking to add more to your plate. We actually want the opposite. We want to give you some breathing room and to do the things that you love to do and to make change in your parish. So why not take a look at what we have there for you?
Yeah, I agree. Well, Colleen, before we wrap up and tell them where we can find it, any final thoughts on how parishes can use this content library to help them feel less overwhelmed?
There are, it can be overwhelming. There is actually a lot in here. And so I think one of the things is just to take a deep breath. There is a planning calendar. There's a chart with all the message series. I would just go through it and see what speaks to you, what you think might be the first way to start to your parish. Maybe it is looking at a Lent series or an Advent series, because liturgically, we're already in the posture of doing a series, even if we're not calling it that. I think that getting one or two people on your team to maybe help you go through the resources and to talk through, could we do this? And plan one, maybe it's a 3-week series, maybe it's something further out. If you look at the depth and breadth of what we're offering, hopefully something will speak to you, and then share it. If you have access to the content library, you have access to all of it, to the small groups, to the children's liturgy of the word, and to the message series, and then reach out to us. We're here to help you. We are really wanting to serve in this way. We have a heart for these parish leaders, for these pastors, for these ministers. And so if there's any questions or any comments or, anything we can do to make this work for you, we're here for you.
Yeah. Colleen, one of the things that you said that I appreciate is, we want to be a blessing. We want to help take this off of their shoulders. And something that I think is huge is you mentioned the pastor doesn't have to do this alone. He can bring in a couple of people to help him on a message team. So whereas in most parishes, the pastor feels like, hey, I have to write a homily every single week, and he's doing that all by himself, when he could have others around him helping to lift his arms and support him in that message series too.
Yes. And actually, little insider information. That is how Nativity works with these message series. There is a dedicated message team. They meet every Monday. They actually meet periodically throughout the year to plan ahead, but they meet every Monday to go through what the message will be. And Father Way has a lot of support in crafting this message each Sunday and crafting this series. So if you, especially at a parish where you might have multiple preachers that are handling the Sunday masses, this one church, one message idea is the greatest resource for that, because you can take a 5-week series and everybody can have the summary for that week and can craft the message together. So you all still get to do your own original preaching, but you're unified in what you're saying. And you're making sure that at every mass, so the 10 o'clock mass and the 5 o'clock mass, they're hearing the same message. That changes everything for a parish too. So when we say that one church, one message, we are thinking through the continuity of that message and how we're all hearing the same story, the same challenge, the same message on the scripture, or what the parish is, we're all unified in that. I do think that that's really important. And this is a great tool for sitting around the table and planning. I will also say in the message library, there is this calendar, which I call the beast. It's huge. It looks ahead for about a year and a half, and it has the lectionary readings, it has the details, it has the Sundays. So that is a good tool too. If you are thinking, okay, in 6 months or maybe even next year, we're going to plan a message series, and how do we do that? If you're looking at what we have to offer, or what you could sit around the table and plan, that calendar is a terrific option too for these message teams, for these, getting ahead of it.
Definitely. And I've seen this calendar and it's impressive. I mean, this is one that can really help these teams. I mean, Colleen, I think this is such a serving tool. I mean, it is a way that we are really serving our parishes by giving them, hey, here's our recommendations for what you could do. Here's all the readings that you need to think about and pray over. And then here's at least 3 different message series that you could use along with them. And I think with their message team, that they can make some major change happen in their parishes.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can start small. It can be overwhelming, but please don't feel overwhelmed. Please give it a try. Look at the samples and see what speaks to you. And again, let us know how we can help.
Yes. And Colleen, we can also give them, we've got a free sample access to the content library that we can give them so they can check it out and see what we've got in there.
And we have an equip course too on preaching in a message series. So it's brand new to our library. It might not actually be out yet, but it is coming soon.
It's coming soon.
Yes. And that is also a really nice, Tom walks you through step by step how to approach preaching in a message series so that you have all the tools and a little calendar, a planning calendar, and some other thinking about how to get better at preaching and what this entails. So that can be a nice add-on to if you are considering the content library.
It teaches them how to do all of this on their own too.
Yeah.
So Colleen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that if you're combining the two, then you can really have a head start on how to get your parish all aligned on your mission.
Absolutely. And massive change can happen then. So Colleen, where can our parishes go to find the content library?
So you would want to start with our website, rebuiltparish.com. And then there is a button. I think it's content, right, Melissa?
So they could go to rebuiltparish.com/content, or they can go to the homepage, rebuiltparish.com, and click on Get Equipped, and content is in there too.
It's one of the choices under that menu bar. And then you can take a sample, shop around, look at some homilies. and then you can log on right there. You can purchase it right there.
Amazing. Well, Colleen, thank you for sharing. Thank you for not only just like sharing the why behind using these message series, but also how parish leaders and pastors can take something that is such a huge part of their week and turn it into something simple, but that is going to be incredibly effective in their parishes.
Thank you for inviting me to talk about this. I spent a lot of time thinking about the content, reformatting it and getting it ready. And I just always pray that on the other end of this work, that there's someone there who feels loved and served, and that they feel like this is a blessing to them. So thank you for letting me talk about it.
Of course. Well, Colleen, I think a lot of people are feeling that this is a blessing for them. And a lot of people are about to feel that this is a blessing once they start using the content library too. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And to all of our listeners, we'll see you next time.